Hello everybody, this is Elaine Bryan, holistic nutritionist and cancer coach and plant food enthusiast. I'm here today to kind of show you how to make an easy gluten-free flatbread. You can put mushroom shawarma in here, which I'm going to show next in another video, or you can do other things that you can just load that up with. You can eat it as a flatbread or fold it in half and put anything you want in it, hummus, all kinds of different things. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my bowl, and this is one where I'm going to use a little bit, no yeast. I'm going to use unsweetened plain yogurt. And so this is one that I bought recently at Trader Joe's. This is the creamy cashew one that you can use. And so that's the one that I'm choosing to use. You can use an almond one, you can use a coconut one. Just make sure it's plain unsweetened to make your flatbread taste correctly. So all we're going to do is mix that in a bowl. So it's going to be 1 1/3 cups of the yogurt. So I'm just going to use my little spatula, put that in the bowl, get it all out of there. That's my one, and then here's my third. Put that all in there. Now, of course, when we make this dough, and if it's a little bit too dry, we can add a little bit of water, 1 tablespoon at a time, to make sure it's just the right consistency that we want. If it's too wet, we just add a little bit more flour, right? Okay, so the next thing we're gonna add is a little bit of baking powder. So we're gonna use a baking powder, again, Trader Joe's. So 2 teaspoons of the baking powder. I'm just gonna put that in there as well. Got that in there, and then I'm gonna use a teaspoon of salt. I use my pink Himalayan salt. This is very salty, so I just really kind of be careful with how much I'm using in there. There we go. And then the next thing we're gonna put in is 8 teaspoons of olive oil. So yes, 8 teaspoons of olive oil. So we're just gonna do that real quick. The quality of your olive oil makes a big difference. I use my olive oil up pretty fast. That's 3, 4, a little bit more than 4, right? 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. And then the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just kind of mix that around, and then we're gonna go ahead and put our flour on top of that. So the flour that I'm using today for the gluten-free is the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1. The reason why I use this one, yes, it does cost a little bit of money, but the thing that I usually buy them 4 at one time, and it usually saves a little bit of money. It depends on how much you're using them, right? You could also get King Arthur's baking flour. So you got to check your baking flour when you're going to be baking things like breads and things like that with it. You want to make sure it has the binder that kind of glues everything together, just like wheat has gluten. It has to have xanthan gum. And so the Bob's Red Mill has the xanthan gum in it. The King Arthur's does not have the xanthan gum. So you have to make sure you buy that separately when you're doing some of this baking breads and things like that, to make sure it binds together and holds together. So xanthan gum is what you're gonna wanna get along with King Arthur's baking gluten-free flour, or check the back of all of your ingredients and all the different ones that you buy. But Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 already has it in it. The other Bob's Red Mill regular gluten-free flour with the bread bag does not. So this is the one, the baking 1-to-1 flour, okay? So I just wanted to go over that with you guys. So I'm just gonna start putting that in there a little bit, mixing it in. Super easy recipe to make. Gotta go slow so it doesn't bounce all over the place like mine just did. Get it all in there. So I'm using the spoon at first, and then I'm gonna use my hands to kind of work it into the dough. I like to kind of just get it all mixed together a little bit. Then we're gonna see what the consistency of it is. It's already kind of making it into a dough. Dough. Have fun with it. So many different things that you can do. So you can use gluten-free flour, right? If you use the right one, right in place of a regular flour, self-rising flour. Okay, so we're just gonna, regular all-purpose flour, I should say. So this is a great way to make these flatbreads easy, and then you don't have to worry about yeast and things like that too. So let's just check our dough. Make sure it comes together, making it into a nice little dough. Add a little bit more olive oil so it's feeling a little wet, but it should be fine. Let's just mix it. It's always just checking and see what it feels like, right? Mixing it in the bowl, and then we're gonna put it on some parchment paper and split it into 8 different rolls, you know, so that we can roll them out. Make them into flatbreads. If you wanna make them smaller, you can do less. That's kind of what we're doing today. I'm just gonna put a little bit more flour in it today. Sprinkle a little bit more on there. So it's just kind of a consistency that it looks like it's not too dried out. You just have to kind of figure what that'll be for you. Move the bowl. I'm gonna get the parchment paper. And it doesn't usually stick to parchment paper. Parchment paper works really well at that. So we're just gonna roll it, mix it, make sure it's all mixed up. And I'm gonna break it into about 8 different rolls. You can also put parsley in there or any other herb that you want to. Use the ball to pick up all the other little pieces. We're just going to make sure that we have it divided up about evenly. That's about right. So we'll look and see what it looks like. About that big. Let's roll them all up, get them all ready. See if one of them has a little bit too much of the dough. It looks like they're all just going to be about perfect. Maybe that one has a little bit too much. I'll put it with this one. It's just like playing with Play-Doh like we used to, right? Get those all mixed up. Perfect. There, and then we're going to start with the one. Then we're going to put, you can put parchment paper over the top of it. Sometimes I don't need to, sometimes I do. We're just going to hold on to that and we're just going to roll it on out. Hopefully you can see that. Roll it the other way. Get it to whatever consistency you want it to be. And sometimes if you don't want to use that, you can just put flour on it. It's fine. Roll it on out. Okay, you can kind of move it around, form it into a nice little oval if you want to. Use your hands, press it down, doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're gonna be ready to cook it in just a few minutes. Okay, so when we're going to cook the flatbreads, we can roll them out or we can actually just press them out with our hands and get them to the place that we want them to be that look like a little bit of a flatbread. And you want them to have a little bit thick of the consistency or thinner. You can just kind of play with that and see what you really like. And then all I'm gonna do is get my really hot skillet. Make sure it's hot. You can just kind of, if it's a cast iron pan, that works really well. Or you can just kind of spray it with a little bit. I use the avocado spray. This one works really well for the high heat where olive oil does not. So coconut oil, ghee, or this avocado oil for when you're heating up your oils really hot, okay? So I'm just gonna turn that upside down and get that heated up. And we're gonna cook it on both sides. We just gotta let it sit for a little bit until it's done, and then we can put some garlic, olive oil on the top of it. So I'll show you that when it's done. And here we have the flatbread cooking here, and we're gonna just brush a little bit of the garlic olive oil on the top of it. I didn't put any parsley or anything on it, but it's really great that way as well. So we're just gonna get that nice and brown, and then we've got our flatbreads to eat. Okay, that's where we go with that one.